everyone, Jenny with On Fire Fit, and welcome to another episode of High Heel Hallelujah. Today I am talking about the door of hope and how that applies to shame. I probably shouldn't have a big smile on my face, but you will see why I do. Usually with shame, we don't look too excited, but today we will be. And that is the topic of the day. But first, let's look at the shoes. Here is the shoe of the day, and it is a little slingback. And I chose this on purpose because this looks like spring and hope and cheerfulness and carefree attitude, and all of that. It's because we are redeemed and restored by God our Father. And so these shoes just seem to mean that to me when I looked at them as I scanned through my closet. Yes, another pair of shoes from my husband. I have had them for so long, but they are not the type of shoe that you can wear with every outfit. I happen to be wearing it with a yellow dress today because of the yellow accent, but I don't wear them a lot, so that's probably why they're in such good condition. And then someone can help me with the name of the shoe. How do we say that? Anyway, I don't think I've ever heard of that brand otherwise, but I do think they're really cute. All right, let's talk. All right. The topic for today, as I said, is shame. And shame is one of those things I don't think anybody really gets excited to talk about. Shame is something that people push aside, either try to ignore it, try to think you're over it, try to deny that you even have it. But I would guess that most people have shame in one way or another. It may be in a greater amount than someone else, but I think that a lot of people, maybe not everybody, maybe there's a group of people that feel pretty good about themselves and that they've done a pretty good job of living this life. And I've said this in other videos, if you're one of those people, how about if you pray for the rest of us? Because I don't fit into your category, but I kind of wish I did. And so if you are one of those people, then you can just pray for the rest of us. But what I want to talk about is how we can get through that and how we can really use the door of hope that will take us out of any kind of shame. There is so much that I could say about this. There are so many angles to this. I have a lot of people that I coach that have shame associated with their bodies or their weight or their choices with food. Perhaps they tend to always overeat and they have shame because of that. You may have some addiction. You may have anything, fill in the blank, that makes you feel like I should be able to get past this, I should be able to get over this, but you just can't, or you just keep finding yourself circling back to that issue over and over again. And usually if that's the case, there is some sort of shame attached to it. Again, there may be other things that you've had in your past or growing up that have brought shame to you. And the big picture here, the big overriding theme that I find is that it tends to be a stealer, a robber of our focus on God. Anytime we are living in a state of shame or even denying it and not really letting ourselves work through it, we have lost our focus on God, and usually our connection with God is also really disrupted or really separated. And that is exactly what the enemy would want to do. So guess what? The enemy does a great job of shaming us. He does a lot of tempting, putting things in your mind that say it's no big deal, everybody does it, or just this once, you can always start getting back on track tomorrow. whatever. He'll put all kinds of thoughts and temptations in front of us. And then if we choose to take it, then he's the first one to jump in and say, well, shame on you. You knew better. You did it again. You're never going to change. You're never going to be better. And isn't it interesting that the very one that made it seem like not a big deal makes it seem like a bigger deal than it actually is, or that it's something, maybe it is a really big deal, but he will also either make it be a bigger deal in your mind, or he will make it seem like you'll never overcome it. So in either case, you are paralyzed and you're pretty much stuck and unable to move through that issue. So for you, I don't know what you might have when I talk about that. You may have something in your mind. I have noticed that over the last few years, God has continually brought me back to the book of Hosea. It is actually pretty astounding how many times I turn directly to Hosea when I have prayed about what I should look up in the Bible for that day. And it's a tiny book of the Bible, and I still don't really know how to eyeball where it is. So it's interesting that it always falls open to that. But this is where I actually am going to read from that part of the Bible, because to me, this is one of the main things that helps me and helped me in the past, and I believe will help you in the future. So hopefully you will listen, because I believe this is pretty amazing. So if you don't know the book of Hosea, Hosea was a prophet. He was told to marry a prostitute named Gomer. He was told by God to do that, and the reason was he wanted that metaphor for the people, his people, the people of Israel, to see the consequence of them running after other things to fill them up. So in just the same way that Gomer, the prostitute, totally denied Hosea, who loved her and chose to marry her, knowing that she was a pretty bad sinner, if you want to call it that. We're all sinners equally, but I'm just saying, in society's view, that was like a grand, big, huge one. And Hosea chose her anyway. And then even when she went out and did what she wasn't supposed to do, Hosea still took her back, because God wanted him, Hosea, to show the people, God's people, that he was doing the same thing for them. A lot of times people feel like in the Old Testament, God is just this angry God, and that there's just no way that they can believe in a God like that. But when you read the Bible in its entirety, and you read in Hosea specifically, you see exactly what was going on. God presented his love, knowing that we were sinners, knowing that we were going to make mistakes. And he said, it's okay. I'm choosing you anyway. And then we go and choose other things to fill us up, whatever your little fill in the blank for your shame is. That particular thing steals your focus away from God. It takes you away from God's best if it's something that keeps driving and compelling you. And yet, God says, I'm still going to redeem and restore you because I love you. And because of his great love and his willingness and ability to continually come after us and restore us and show us who he is and who we are in him, we can overcome things, but we always tend to go at it the wrong way. We think that we need to get our act together before we come to God. We let shame separate us because we think, I should have known better. I've done it so many times. Why would I ask God again? He'll just be mad at me. That's all a bunch of lies. And we have to get to the point where we understand that the only way we're going to overcome things is going through that door of hope of what God said, and not listen to the lies of the enemy anymore. So in this book, we come to a point where the Israelites have been doing a lot of horrible things. They've been making a lot of stupid mistakes. They have completely turned away from God. And God says, therefore, I am now going to allure her. I will lead her into the desert and speak tenderly to her. There I will give her back her vineyards and will make the valley of Acre, which is trouble, a door of hope. There she will sing as in the days of her youth, as in the day when she came up out of Egypt. In that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband. You will no longer call me my master. I will remove the names of the Baals from her lips. And I'm going to skip down a little bit. I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you in righteousness and justice, in love and compassion. I will betroth you in faithfulness, and you will acknowledge the Lord. This is so amazing because God is basically saying that even though we have blown it big time, even though we think that we're not worthy, he says, it doesn't matter. I am going to come in and take you for my own anyway. You're my beloved and I love you. And I am going to be faithful to you even if you're not faithful to me. And then right at the end of this is from Hosea chapter 2. He said, I will plant her for myself in the land. I will show my love to the one I called not my loved one. I will say to those called not my people, you are my people. And they will say, you are my God. So he says, whatever it is that is going on that is separating you from me, anything that you've chosen to take your focus off of me, I am still choosing you. I am still here to redeem you, and not only redeem you, but I am going to restore you. And that's when he talks about going out into the desert and speaking tenderly and giving back her vineyards, which is exactly what we're talking about. Sometimes you feel like you're in the desert, but that is oftentimes the place where God is able to speak to you because you have ears to listen. And it's in that place that he will restore you and bring back all that you lost by taking your focus off of him. And he makes this what they call the valley of Acre, which is the valley of trouble. He will actually provide the door of hope in that place. So this is so good for us to remember and know constantly that it is not about us coming up with enough motivation, enough determination, enough willpower to be able to get through something, to get out of the desert or whatever. We simply have to turn our focus back to God. Remember that he chose us even when we were not worthy of being chosen. We are not the last one on the team getting picked. He picked us first, even if we didn't seem like we qualified. And he brings us back to him to the point of even thinking of him as your husband or your spouse, your most beloved, the one that you chose. He loves us like that. And so I hope that for you, you really think about this today, because I know I have a mix of people that listen to my videos, and I really hope that you just give a little bit of thought to this. If you have really felt separated from God, or like you've done too much to be worthy to even think about, or maybe you think of him as an angry God, whatever the case might be, I really hope and pray that you give this some thought. He sent his son to die for us while we were yet sinners, not once we figured it out, got cleaned up, gave up whatever it is that is our stronghold in our life. He came and saved us in that moment. And because of that, we should and grow in love toward him for his sacrifice and for his willingness to love us. So I think this is really important to get a hold of. It takes a lot of time of working through that and allowing ourselves to really let that sink in, because it really goes against our nature, but it is the door of hope, and it can overcome any shame that you might have. So thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that that helps you. I would love to hear from you. And if you think these shoes look a little bit like spring, we're going through the vineyard what do we call this? Frolicking through the vineyard, and just being so grateful that we have that door of hope in the Lord Jesus. So thanks so much for being with me. I hope that you have a wonderful day and that you're living your life on fire. Well, it's not a vineyard, but it's the closest thing I've got, my beautiful backyard. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for being here with me, and I look forward to seeing you for the next episode of High Heel Hallelujah.